Hello and welcome to discussion today. I am Tina Jha. Vice President Venkaiah Naidu has once again emphasized the need for much needed reforms in the agriculture sector to improve the status of the Indian farmers and make agriculture profitable. He's called for cooperative action to achieve this and a dialogue with farmers and agricultural scientists to design a system that delivers tangible results to the farming community. Speaking at an event on Wednesday, the Vice President advised top priority and coordinated action by both the centre and the states to bring in these much-needed reforms. In fact, he also suggested that the 4 Ps, which mean Parliament, political leaders, policymakers and the press, he said these must proactively adopt a positive bias towards agriculture. Also observing that many people are leaving agriculture and migrating to urban areas because of rising input costs and unfavourable market conditions, the Vice President said the problems that are holding back Indian farmers from realising their full potential must be identified and then solved. To make agriculture viable, the Vice President called for long-term policy changes like governance and structural reforms. So what is it that can improve the state of agriculture in India, making it both profitable and sustainable at the same time? The challenges in the process and the new innovations that could help mitigate the risks in agriculture. These are some of the aspects that we will talk about with experts today. Joining me on discussion today are 2 distinguished panelists. Let me introduce them to you. I'm joined on the program by Mr. S.K. Malhotra. He's Agriculture Commissioner, Department of Agriculture, Cooperation and Farmers Welfare. Welcome to the show, Mr. Malhotra. And we also have with us Mr. Sandeep Das. He's an agriculture expert. Mr. Das, welcome to discussion today. Mr. Malhotra, so let me begin the program with you. The agriculture sector, we've seen it served as a lifeline during a time when all other sectors were majorly hit. But then, of course, there are some formidable challenges that this particular sector is also facing. So if very briefly you could take us through some of the challenges that are, in a way, holding back our agriculture sector from realizing its full potential and impacting the growth of this sector in the country.
Yeah, you are right, because now it's clear that agriculture is the lifeline. There is no doubt about it, because this is the only source which ensures our food and nutritional security. So our food and nutritional security comes through agriculture only. So there are several crops which are now being grown by the farmers, and you will find that about 70% of the production that comes from the rain-fed ecosystem. So here we need to see that the problems are altogether different, and farmers, they have to face the challenges. And here a rain-fed ecosystem sometimes has its own problems. So where the production is totally dependent on the occurrence of the rainfall and further utilizing all those resources whatsoever are available with them. So we used to say that how farmers, they can enhance their income, because in this book also, which has been very recently released, I think, and that in that book several points have been covered, and the credit goes to the farmers. They have contributed in enhancement of the total production. So today we have achieved the total record production of 303 million tons of the food grains. But the worry of the government is that how we can ensure the good price to the farmers, and how we can enhance the income of the farmers, and how we can increase our production and productivity. And productivity-led growth should take place, not the area-led growth. So that is the focus. Per unit area production should be there. More production should come from per unit area. And then again, we need to enhance the productivity, and cost of the production is also required to be reduced. From that purpose, government has introduced several schemes. Those are now being run. And one of the very important programs that we call National Food Security Mission, National Horticulture Mission, then some flagship programs are also there. And particularly this Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, as I was mentioning about rain-fed ecosystem, where our major production that comes from the rain-fed ecosystem. But if we provide irrigation and irrigation efficiency, if it is increased, definitely our production will also increase in the rain-fed areas. So from that point of view, Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana has been now implemented, and till today we are having now coverage of about 12.7 million hectare area under a micro irrigation system. So these all are the interventions which are required to be adopted. You know that now electronic national agriculture marketing, then soil health card, these all are the flagship programs which Government of India has introduced, and these all are the approaches where farmer they need to reduce the cost. That's why biofertilizers are also now being promoted, and use of machinery in agriculture is also now being promoted, so that farmer they can decrease the cost, and further they can enhance the income, and they can carry out all the operations timely. So these all are the interventions which are interlinked. If you speak about that, how the production should increase, and further how we can help the farmers in augmenting means productivity per unit area.
Absolutely. Okay. Mr. Das, so quite a number of challenges that need to be taken care of if we want our agriculture sector to grow. But the problem here is we are looking at not just increasing our production and becoming self-sufficient. The focus has also shifted on doubling a farmer's income, and for which we've seen there have been a set of reforms that were brought in by the government that have been in a way stalled. So the question that arises at the moment is, if these reforms continue to be opposed, will we be able to, see that growth that we want for our agriculture sector and the target that we have set to double the farmer's income by the year 2022?
See, the key challenges part of the agriculture is one of the challenges is that one of the rising input costs, that includes your fertilizer cost and the water intensity of the agriculture. These are the input costs rising, and at the same time we have a production. We have sort of, for the last many years, 4-5 years, we have been our monsoon has been very good. So that's why our production has also increased, and because of the various schemes of the government, our production has been increased. But the main challenge is each farmer is getting the better price for his produce. Perhaps many of the time there is a glut in the market. So basically, why it glut? Because of our reform, the government has brought out 2 new act, and one is the reforms to the Essential Commodity Act, amendment to the Essential Commodity Act, which implies that the market access, how can the market can be more efficient to be run, how there can be processing part of it. Those, if we do processing, then our farmers' income will increase. Only production, looking at production, it's very tough to do that, because we have produced so much of production today. Also, if you look at rice, wheat, we have a huge stocks with the food crops of India, but still we are many parts of the country we don't get farmers don't get MSP. So that's why the market reform is a key to the program, market access, which government has brought out. So that there is a contact farming. These are the things. If you compare, see, there are 2 kinds of challenges. One is the cereal crop, and the other is the horticultural crop. Look at the horticultural crop. We don't have a MSP system, but still it is fairly doing well. But still there is a price, with tomato price. If you look at tomato, there is a price glut. There is a, you need to look at the agriculture more of a holistic approach in terms of just not output. It's about market access. It's about input cost. So these are the challenges in the agriculture space. We have production, we have, except to an extent pulses and to a large extent oilseeds. Most of the crop we generally produce self-sufficient in the country, mostly, except pulses and oilseeds. So we should look at how to improve the market. And even the COVID time also, India has emerged as one of the biggest rice exporter in the world, basically. When all the other countries were stockpiling their crop to a rice, we exported, basically. It has a lot of things, but at the end of the day, there has to be balance, because this volatility in the agriculture price causes distress to the farmers, and government has to take a middle path, because if it become volatile, because they have to control the inflation. How efficiently we can manage our markets, how efficiently we manage our export, those are the challenges, because these laws are very progressive in terms of futuristic in approach. We need a contact. At the end of the day, we need contract farming, because without the contract farming, small farmers cannot be economically viable. And it's an issue which need to deal with that. And even without this legislation, also there are many parts of the country where contract farming is going on.
Absolutely.
because when that's how I'm saying the challenges are multifold, and we main focus should be on the input cost, reducing input cost, and making efficient use of fertilizer and water, and market access. We need to improve our markets, and the INAM is one part of it, but there are large other market reform we need to. So we need to have private markets and those kind of stuff.
Mr. Malhotra, so clearly reforms and radical shift is needed if we want to make our agriculture sector more viable. And this is something that the Vice President also stressed upon. But what are the kind of long-term policy changes in terms of governance, in terms of structural reforms that will be required if we are to take this drastic step, which of course will boost our agriculture sector?
Yeah, here you are already aware that three laws were introduced, and these laws were I mean, the effort was that how we can further help the farmer, because there are so many middlemen who were creating a kind of, I should say, hurdle for not getting the good remunerative price to the farmers, because that kind of hurdle was there. So here we need to promote this contract farming. So it is one of the mode. Another thing is that we need to come out of this Essential Commodity Act, because Essential Commodity Act was introduced long back when India got the independence. At that time, it was a necessity that we need to put a kind of condition where stock limits, etc., should be there. But now policy changes are needed, that we need to promote diversification in agriculture. Yes. That is required to be put into practice. So here high value crops are required to be promoted, as it has been mentioned about horticulture crops. Then again, the mention was also there regarding this COVID. So during the COVID period, now people are demanding more this turmeric, garlic, then lemon, and there are several other high value, highly nutritive crops where demand is now upsurging. So production is required to be taken for these high value crops. So diversification should be done. As you know that rice and wheat, we have surplus which is available with us, and we got a kind of calculations. Then we arrived at that 60 lakh ton of rice is surplus with us now at the moment, and wheat also 25 lakh ton of wheat is also in surplus with us. So here this if we have to diversify and we have to reduce this much production, then about 20 lakh hectare area of rice is required to be diversified to the other crops which are less water consuming, particularly this maize. Then we have millets, pulses, oil seeds. These are the crops which are required to be promoted, and the government has already started few schemes. National Mission for Edible Oils, and then National Food Security Mission for pulses, because pulses already we are near self-sufficiency. Earlier we were importing about 5 to 6 lakh tons. Now we have reached to the level of that self-sufficiency. So this is one part. Another is that how we can further enhance the income of the farmer, because there is a loss of income. There is a loss of the, I should say, to the commodities. About 5 to 18% of the loss, post-harvest losses are occurring in the crops. So that loss is also required to be minimized. If you remember, just yesterday only, Honorable PM through the cabinet, this PIL scheme has been introduced, that production-oriented incentive is required to be given for food processing. So food processing infrastructure, now it will be promoted, through which our post-harvest losses will be minimized, and that will be channelized towards food processing. Either it is a ready-to-eat food, or further making several value-added fruits, vegetables. Either it is frozen vegetables or it's a canned fruit, and then fruit juices and all other, all that food processing industry is required to be put in. I mean, that is required to be put in establishment at several places where the raw material is coming. Because now, when India got the independence, at that time we were producing only 50 lakh tons of 50 million tons of the food, but now we have reached to 303 million ton. So this is a kind of change which is happening. But at that time, green revolution has also been mentioned. But at that time, we were having enough land which was available with us, and few genes, they did wonder, and through green revolution our production increased. But now challenges are many, and now climate change effect is also now it is visible. then again our population is increasing, our resources are declining. So accordingly, now our plans have been revamped, and accordingly now focus is on increasing the production, productivity, then processing, and how we can ensure the better price to the farmers through
Absolutely.
better market
And
policies.
towards that,
These all
Mr.
are
Das,
the changes which are now being expected. Yes.
Okay, so towards all of that, because obviously the challenges are many, but at the same time, we have to ensure that we become self-sufficient, our production is high. Mr. Das, towards that, modernization is essential for the Indian agriculture sector, just like any other sector. So what are the new practices that we need to enact with the changing times so that we are able to achieve all of that Mr. Malhotra has pointed out, so that our agriculture sector is the one that is leading growth of our country?
Yeah, as I stated earlier, there are two things we need to, the modernization of agriculture means we need to increase, one is the yield output part of it. We need many of the crops, we can enhance our yield to better varietal development, which is a continuous process, which is happening. And we need to ensure that our precision agriculture, when I say precision agriculture in terms of appropriate fertilizer use, appropriate water use, those kind of technique, there are a lot of drip irrigation technique is there. Because the water is a emerging area, the climate change and water scarcity is availability of water is emerging as the biggest thing. Because today what we're seeing in the northern part of the country, like Punjab, Haryana, parts of Haryana, is water table has gone very, very low, which is unsustainable in the long run. So what will happen that we need to immediately shift to those crops which are less water consuming. It's like coarse cereals and millets and all, which is gradually we need to shift out of that. And we need to also produce that, because of the eastern and other southern part of the country are producing enough rice. So part of the rice production has to shift, otherwise it becomes, already we have a surplus production. So that rice part, chunk of rice must grown in Punjab and parts of Haryana has to grow. When I say chunk of rice, means that is non-basmati rice. I'm not talking about the basmati here. So those kind of stuff, and also technological intervention in terms of how to reduce, how to improve your soil fertility, and this burning of the straws, those kind of stuff we need to, because by burning straws you are already killing your soil. So technology use and also mostly technological in terms of efficient water management and efficient market access also. So these are all, and keeping in the mind that climate change is real now, and although we have many of the time we have a monsoon, we declare as a normal monsoon, but our intensity, the rainy days are reducing gradually. So we need to take into account those things into consideration and save whatever rainfall we get and use it prudently, efficiently, in terms of we have a drip irrigation, we have micro irrigation facilities, we have so there are technology. We have vertical farming coming up in a big way for tomato and many other crops. Vertical farming without using much of a land. So those kind of technology are available, and it's gradually being adopted. And market access, I must say, is one of the biggest access, and processing part of it. Okay. If you don't process, we cannot achieve the doubling farmers' income, because processing value addition leads to higher income, because selling a tomato for 10 rupees or 20 rupees, it doesn't fetch you much basically. If farmers get only 5-6 rupees, when a market price is 20 rupees. But when it's processed in various quantities, so it get better price basically. So that is how, and government has been giving thrust on creation of farmers producer organization. So those will be, FPOs will I think in the future will play a key role in marketing their produce. So that and as I said, we said it already stated in the program, that contract farming, because when you do the contract farming, we produce crop, and the person who does the contract farming, who purchase those produce from the farmers, are also provide them the inputs to produce better quality of product.
Yes, and it is a profitable venture.
India is emerging as one of the biggest exporter of many of the commodities. Can you imagine the fruits and vegetables close to $2 billion have been exported? In the COVID time, we exported fruits and vegetables to UK and many other European countries, along with the Middle East countries. Can you imagine that? The COVID time also challenges, despite our logistical challenge, we exported those kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So growth that is profitable. So for that, we'll have to adopt certain new methods and certain reforms that we've been talking about. But very, very important thing, Mr. Malhotra, that the Vice President pointed out, that the Prime Minister has also been speaking about, that in order to adopt these reforms, what is required, what is the need of the hour is center-state coordination, which unfortunately is lacking at the moment. So no matter how many reforms we bring about, without this coordination, it will not percolate, it will not benefit the farmers, for which these reforms are very, very important. So going forward, how do we ensure that we have a perfect coordination between the center and the states, which ultimately percolates to the farming community?
Yes. If you remember, all of our schemes which were earlier having its focus on production, but now the focus is shifting from production to marketing. That marketing aspect, that is also required to be promoted, and as it has been mentioned that here we need to increase the market access. So we need some kind of reforms. It was also felt, it was a long back, it was decided that some kind of changes in the policy aspect is required to be taken. That's why these three laws have been introduced, and these three laws are one of the best steps which Government of India has taken for the benefit of the farmers, that how we can ensure the better price to the farmers, and further how they can be empowered. From that point of view, 10,000 FPOs now it has been decided to establish. So commodity-based FPOs are now coming, and farmers, they will be more empowered, and they will get a kind of, I should say, a leverage, and further at very low cost, they can purchase the input, and further inputs will be made to them through their farmer producer organizations, and each and every farmer producer organization will work as a market, I should say, a small market. It will function as a small market, and government has also decided that needed infrastructure will also be provided at these places, and such kind of reforms have been made. And again, second point, which is very important, that's a risk management. So from the risk management point of view, that Pradhan Mantri Kisan Samman Yojana has been started, and the farmer is getting 6,000 rupees per year. 2,000 rupees in the each season, Kharif, Rabi and summer. So he can purchase the input. So some kind of risk is also covered through this one. Another point is Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana. Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana is also helping in covering the risk. And then credit facility, institutional credit system that has been made strong, and that provision is providing a great support to the farmer. So these all are the enablers, which I say that which have been put in place, and farmers, they are now taking full benefit of all these enablers that which I have mentioned. That's Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, and PM Kisan, and another one that relates to this credit availability. So these all are the points which just I wanted to tell, that these are the changes which have been recently made by the government for the support of the farmers.
Okay, so a lot of efforts have been undertaken in the recent past, but of course, going forward, a lot needs to be done if our agriculture sector has to see the growth and which is desirable for the country, being an agrarian economy, and also for it to benefit the farming community at large. Timing is running out, so I'll have to stop the discussion at this very point. Thank you to both my guests once again for joining us on the program and sharing your thoughts with us. So with that, I'll wrap this edition of discussion today. Thank you very much for your time.